You know what I noticed about your hair?
Mhm.
You'd lost your curl completely.
Completely.
Your hair was straighter than that.
Yes.
And look at it now. It's back
Yeah,
to the
I honestly,
original beautiful curl.
I don't know
And
what
the
happened.
thickness is amazing because your hair was falling out like nobody's. It's tragic, wasn't it?
But I had bald patches, and
Yeah.
and you told me go get some blood work done, and and I did all that, and they found me to be severely anemic. So I have a lot to thank you for, including my energy boost. I feel so energetic.
So this product. So on hair, you just wet your hair, a bit like we were talking about before with the oil you put on before you wash your hair. You wet your hair, you put this stuff on. This is a lot better than the oil I used to use. And then you shampoo your hair. I actually leave this in on my own hair. I left it in. I don't actually use it anymore because my hair's perfect now. But before it was dry and frizzy after COVID, actually. And one treatment cured it.
Welcome back
Hi
to
there.
the Allergy Magazine podcast.
Hi. Lovely to be here again. Excited to be here. So what do you want to talk about today?
First of all, I wanted to thank you because I came to you last year and my hair was a hot mess, as the kids would say. But I wanted our audience to understand what are the causes of hair damage.
Right. Okay. So this is quite simple, but probably not that well known. If you imagine your hair grows out of, just think of this, your hair grows out of your head in a certain way. So some people's hair grows out great, some people's hair not so great. And, some people love their hair, some people don't. Some people have got more natural oils in their body, so the hair may actually be too greasy. Some people may not have enough natural oils, or their hair is very curly, which actually does minimize the amount of natural oils they've got in their hair itself. So you might have, for example, greasy hair but afro hair, and the oil only gets down a small way. Or you might have someone that's got long straight hair and the oils go down very easily. And these oils come from little glands in the scalp called sebaceous glands. And the stuff that comes out of your head is called sebum. And believe it or not, it has, like everything, it has a chemical formula. So I looked at why do some people who, let's say, got a perfectly good amount of natural oil coming out of their head, but they've got dry hair. So let's think about this. First of all, as soon as you wash your hair with shampoo, you're breaking up the natural oils of this part of your hair. Well, you're obviously cleaning that bit as well. So the oils that come out of your head are limited by how much oil you produce and how curly your hair is. And if your hair is very curly, the ends will be drier. And if your hair is very straight, the oils will get further down. But shampoo still is stripping the hair. So it only goes so far. Let's imagine you had your hair down to your bottom. Yeah. Do you agree that the oils from your scalp would not be able to moisturize your hair from the roots to the ends unless you never washed your hair at all?
Right.
True?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you have very, very long hair, you're always going to have drier ends if you're shampooing your hair, which is the reason why in Asia they oil their hair. They put oil on their hair and they tie it in a plait because they know they've got often Indian girls or girls from Pakistan, that sort of area. Traditionally, they'd have their hair very, very long and their hair would have to be oiled. But obviously, and if they didn't wash their hair, which some don't, some actually just put perfumed oils to, rinse the hair with water and put perfume oils. Some shampoo their hair. They have all sorts of different systems to how we do. But here in the West, we wash our hair with shampoo. So shampoo is designed to break up oil. It's a surface active agent. So the number one cause of hair dryness would be the breaking up of those natural oils from different things. Shampoo being the most common. Now, what would be another thing that would cause hair to have less protection? By the way, this stuff that comes out of your head, although it's called sebum, it's known in my business as a chemist as the hydro, which means water, lipid, which means fat, barrier, hydrolipid barrier. Not only does oil come out of your scalp from sebaceous glands every day, But it also, when your hair actually grows out of your head in the first place, there are microscopic particles of hydrolipids in your actual hair itself, inside your hair, in the cuticles and the cortex. And these are the things that control the amount of water that's trapped in your hair and the amount of water that comes out, it evaporates.
Right.
And they're very, very important. So you've got two types of hydrolipid barriers. You've got the sebum that is nourished from your sebaceous glands, which are about 2 millimeters inside your scalp. And you've got the oils that your hair grew out with. If theoretically you never shampooed your hair and nothing got on it like dust and things that would dry up the natural oils, you could theoretically just put your hair in a plait, rub it long, 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 never wash it, and your hair will be in amazing condition. So shampoo is a big defatter of the hydrolipid barrier. But there is a few worse things than that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously different shampoos vary by how much they strip the hair. The milder ones are more loving to the hair. These are called amphoterics, and they are less stripping. The worst one would be sodium lauryl sulfate. Have you heard of that?
No. I want to know which brands have the damaging stuff.
SLS and SLES. You must have seen shampoo that says it contains no SLS.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that?
But
yeah, that's SLS stands for sodium lauryl sulfate. And what people don't like about sodium lauryl sulfate is, apart from the fact that it's used to degrease engines, in car engines, and if you drop some oil on the floor, you throw some of that over that, because it's really powerful. It has a very very small molecule. And because it's got a very small molecule, it gets into your scalp very easily, and that is terrible for curly hair. And because it's got a high degree of salt in it, it's quite abrasive. So it really, really is terrible for particularly afro curly hair. If you go on any curly girl website, it'll always say SLS and SLES are no-nos. Because for people like you can't use anything that defats your hair.
Right.
And that's because your hair's curly, yeah? And obviously someone who's got straight hair would get away with it a little bit more, which is why Tresemme and all those sort of inexpensive shampoos would be made from SLS or SLES. So you ask me which ones? Any cheap shampoo that you buy in a supermarket will contain SLS or SLES because it's cheap. And that's why they're able to sell them cheaply. So when you look at a big bottle of Tresemme and it only costs £2.50, it's because it's cheap stuff.
Right.
Okay. So shampoo, big no-no.
Right.
Okay, big no-no having a defatting shampoo. There is a way around it, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay. So the next thing is heat. Heat. Now, not mild heat, but hot heat. Do you agree that heat's going to dry your skin and your hair?
Yeah.
Why does heat do that? Because what happens when something gets warm? Let's just take your clothes. You put it on the radiator and you leave it on a while. It gets to a point where it's dry. And then what happens if you forget about a towel that you left on the radiator? You come back to it and it feels hard and crispy, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's because more water has come out than you wanted it to, and now it's like, you could rip it, couldn't you, with your hands like that? It's got no natural elasticity. Right. So that is that's because the towel doesn't have a very good hydrolipid barrier, and if you leave it on to dry too long, it'll go hard and starch-like. Now, hair is the same thing. If you overheat it, too much moisture will come out, too much water. Because I don't know if you know, but
because
moisture.
Let me
just say, what is moisture? You think moisture is oil.
Water, yeah.
Water. Moisture is hydration. Water, H2O.
Yeah.
And what does oil do? It traps water.
Okay.
So when you oil your hair when it's wet, you notice that it takes ages to dry, almost doesn't dry. It stays moist because oil and water don't mix, and the water can't pass out through the oil. So the perfect combination would be microscopic hydrolipids barrier, keeping enough moisture, water in the hair and not allowing it to dry out so the hair becomes dehydrated. They call hair that becomes dehydrated defatted because fats are oils, oils are lipids, lipids come from sebum, from your scalp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, so you asked me about heat. Obviously, excessive heat makes more water evaporate, so the hair becomes drier. But there is an extreme to heat, which is when you actually damage the hair through the heat. So just like if you put your hand in a candle or a fire, it will blister. If you get straightening irons and you put them on the hair, first you'll see steam come off. That's what that smoke is. And then you'll see smoke, as in burnt hair. And that's the other bit of smoke. Now, why would that be bad for the hair? Because have you ever, you know that water boils at 100 degrees, but straightening irons are 210 degrees. So they're twice the heat of boiling water plus another 10 degrees.
Right.
So if I was to get some water on some hair
Yeah.
and get the straightening irons and
Yeah.
just put the straightening irons straight onto the hair, what would happen? What would you see?
Steam, right?
Steam. You've turned the water to boiling water. Now, there's a chemical reaction when you take protein, hair is made of protein, with boiling water. It's called hydrolyzed protein. So you start off with protein and then you end up with hydrolyzed protein. Hydrolyzed protein has no structure to it. So you are destroying the actual physical structure of the hair by hydrolyzing it. You've made the protein no longer strong and it ruins the elasticity of it. And if I want to make a wig curly, I put rollers in the wig, perm rollers, put the wig into boiling water, take it out, wait till oxygen in the air gets to it, take the rollers out, I've got a perfect perm, no chemicals whatsoever. I've broken down the bonds in the hair and they reform to a certain extent with air and the oxygen in the air. So I've now done a perm. That's exactly how a perm works with using boiling water. That's how every wig maker makes a perm. So you are basically perming your hair straight when you use straightening irons on slightly damp hair. And if it's not damp, there's still moisture in there. So you're still boiling the water in there. So you're degrading the hair a little bit every time you use very hot straightening irons. The only way around it.
What about the protectants that we are being sold all the time? We're told, protects up to this amount of degrees and.
Yeah, well, the protectants are normally based on silicones or oils.
Right.
Now, have you ever tried to cool a chip pan that's got boiling oil and put it in your to try to cool it down? You put water on it, like cooled it down with the thingy, and it flies up in the air and spits all over the place. You can't do it, can you? You have to wait until it cools down on its own because water is not cool enough to cool oil, and because oil and water don't mix, you get a reaction, and it's exactly the same. Oil is goes hotter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you heat oil, you get a much higher degree because it doesn't evaporate, whereas water does. So when something evaporates, it becomes cooler. Cooler to 100 degrees, but it doesn't ever go above 100 degrees because the boiling point of water is 100 degrees. The boiling point of oil is hundreds of degrees.
Right. Okay, so you're saying
heat protectors that are based on oil will leave your hair hotter, just like a chip pan stays hotter longer.
So is there no way for us, some of us, because I have the versatility?
There is. Okay, have you heard the expression "taking one for the team"?
Yes, I don't think I like it.
No, but in hair protection, it's good. I do get what you're saying. Okay. In hair protection, it's good because what about this clever idea? Right. What about if you got something that was like liquid hair and you put it on your hair when it's wet and then you dried your hair off as much as you possibly could and then you run the straightening irons and the straightening irons were now heating the outside of the hair, which is coated in protein. Now, protein that's exactly the same as human hair would be taking one for the team. The
Mm.
hair underneath wouldn't be damaged because the product would be damaged.
But is that what they're offering us? Because I noticed
No,
some, no, right? Because when I use some brands, I noticed that my hair feels like I've damaged it.
you have. But if you now, so one day I was sitting on the loo and I was reading about various vegetable proteins, as you do. And I actually honestly do remember this, is not a joke. I was just like biding my time, reading something, never waste any time, on the internet, obviously. And I read that the amino acid structure of this particular protein I was looking at, which was a vegetable protein from quinoa, was exactly the same amino acid structure as human hair. So I did another search on the internet and I found someone who was selling hydrolyzed quinoa protein. And I contacted them in America. And unfortunately, a little boy called Mario answered the phone. How I know that was because he was playing a computer game and he said, hello. And he was American, by the way. This was in Los Angeles. I was ringing Los Angeles. And this is the days before cheap phone calls. This was expensive. This was costing me money. Anyway, he said, I said, is your mum there? And he went, I'll get her. Anyway, he never came back. And I could hear him playing computer game. And I wasn't, after a while, you get to that point where you've been on that long that you don't want to lose any more money. So I stayed on. And then I heard a woman come in and say, why is the phone not, no, oh yes, somebody rang for you. Her name was Maria Diaz. So she came on, hello? I said, oh my God, I've been waiting. She said, I'm so sorry. Is this a business call? I said, yes. I said, I'm looking to buy hydrolyzed quinoa protein. She said, what do you want it for? And I didn't want to tell her that I'd suddenly come up with this great idea. I said, what do you sell it for? She said, oh, as a skin product. To this day, I have absolutely no idea why anybody would buy hydrolyzed quinoa protein for a skin product. I bet she was hardly selling any. Anyway, she said, well, I'll send you some for free because you've been waiting on the phone so long. And so she posted me some. And I mixed it up with warm water. I sprayed it on the hair when it's wet, dried the hair off, used the straightening irons, compared it to hair that didn't have it on. The difference was enormous. And I called it Heat Protection Spray. And I sell that product. Unfortunately, people keep using it on on dry hair. They think it's a heat, like the sort of heat protection sprays that we were just talking about, the silicone oily things. And then they end up putting water on the hair again, so the hair's now got wet, which is stupid. But if you put it on when it's wet and dry it off, then you've got this film of protein, which isn't your own hair, taking one for the team. So that's the answer to that one.
Are you saying that we shouldn't shampoo our hair? You seem a bit down on shampoos.
No, I did used to think that was washing your hair was a very precarious thing. So originally I came up with one idea, which was I made a blend of oils and I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be a good idea if you just wet the hair before you washed it? And where your hair's not greasy, like your hair's not greasy at the root, you just take a kind of drops of this oil and you rub it through the ends like a pre-shampoo oil. Then when you shampooed your hair, you'd wash the scalp beautifully and you wouldn't be stripping the hair on the ends where the ends didn't have any oils.
Right.
Clever?
Very clever.
So that was
the oil would protect the dry ends.
Exactly. You'd clean the roots because you didn't put any oil there, and you wouldn't strip the ends, you just freshen up the ends because you've got oil there, and the shampoo wouldn't be able to strip the dry parts more because there's already oil there.
Yeah.
Taking one for the team again.
Totally. So, because the idea of, because another thing is scalp health. Right? Because,
absolutely,
those of us who exercise and sweat a lot, the thought of not shampooing your hair is quite...
So this way of doing it is perfect because you get a nice clean scalp and you just cleaned enough oils off there not to be stripped, and you've got not dry ends because you've put oil on there to balance it all out. I did try to make it shampoos which balanced the hair out, and I took years, and I only recently invented a shampoo which is balanced, that wouldn't strip your ends or your roots. But many hairdressing products have claimed it for years. It's just made up rubbish. In other words, of course, it was important to make a shampoo that was so gentle that it would clean your roots and not strip your ends, but nobody ever did it before. And the reason why, if you want to know,
Yeah.
is because the actual quality, we were all using sodium lauryl sulfate, and
Mm.
it didn't work. It was too abrasive.
Mm. Okay.
So then and the reason why nobody went away from sodium lauryl sulfate is because it was very, very hard to make shampoo that wasn't made from sodium lauryl sulfate at a price that anyone would buy it. Shall I give you an idea on the cost? It would cost me 50p to make a shampoo that's made from sodium lauryl sulfate, and it would cost me about £9 to make a shampoo that wasn't. That's the difference. So 18 times more expensive. So there
Wow.
wasn't really any motivation to make a bottle of shampoo that wasn't, made from sodium lauryl sulfate. But then when sodium lauryl sulfate got such a bad reputation, people were prepared to start paying a bit more for shampoo. So they did start making organic shampoo,
Yeah.
and these were the more expensive ones.
Mhm.
But still, those, I don't know if you've ever used organic
I
shampoo.
just did
Have you?
today. Yeah, I used is it John Masters?
Yeah.
Organic shampoo.
And did you find it much better?
I find it still quite drying.
Right. Okay. So it's not balanced. So I then decided to throw my son actually is my business partner, Zach.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, no, you've got to keep the price down. You've got to keep the price down. Forget about your fancy ideas. Maybe people just do that oil thing, the pre-oil thing, and that can be part of our system. And I mean, nobody wants to be doing that. Not everybody, anyway. Why don't we spend the money and really, really make a shampoo which is so good quality, doesn't strip the ends? And this is it. So it hasn't been launched yet,
Okay.
and it's here.
Ooh.
What's it called?
100% organic shampoo balance, right?
Yeah, hasn't. It's not even on the market.
Mm.
Just been made. Nice packaging, isn't it?
Really nice packaging.
This
I
is
have to say, I like the
recycled.
silver. I like just the
Thank you.
plain silver too.
Well, that's aluminium, and it's fully recyclable. And this is already been recycled. This is recycled paper.
Wow.
And what's amazing is it goes wet in the shower, and then it goes back like that again.
Oh,
Doesn't
that's
look
amazing.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's biodegradable ink as well. So I managed to make a balanced shampoo. Now, what's fantastic is if you've got greasy roots and dry ends, you can use balance, and it doesn't strip your ends at all.
That's
Now,
exciting.
So most people use this now, including me. I don't use any conditioner. I just use this shampoo. Doesn't need any conditioner. I always use conditioner all my life. But now I don't need to. And the next shampoo I made is one called, I think it's called Moisture, and it's for you, right? So if you haven't got any, I'll have to send you some.
Right.
And what it is that same shampoo, but it's actually got a moisturizer in it, because your hair's never going to be that greasy. It might be a bit dirty after you've been doing your gym. It's
Yeah.
never going to be that greasy. So for that, like 3% in the UK, it's probably about, well, not.
I always
3%,
love
probably
grease in my hair though. I put oils and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. But this moisture shampoo is too rich for me. My hair, it literally is. Well, it actually isn't as curly when I use it, because my hair's such good condition now. But for people who've got actually naturally curly hair, really curly hair, and really dry, my moisture shampoo is fantastic. Afro hair be absolutely amazing. You would be able to get a comb through it easily without conditioner with moisture shampoo, and it'll be beautifully clean. It bubbles like mad. It's rich and everything, and it's the same base. It is very, very expensive, 100% organic base. It doesn't strip your hair at all. The best shampoo, both of these, balance, and I think it's called Moisture. Oh no, I think it's called Hydrate. It's new.
Okay.
I could probably.
So it's not on your website yet. When are you?
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, it might be out by the time this podcast comes out.
Okay. Well, we'll do a live where we can. I need to find the best time for the audience to do lives, because in the daytime, maybe at night. Okay.
Yeah, I could do it even. So obviously, I made conditioners to go with it. I made a special one for fine hair, so that it doesn't weigh the hair down, because a lot of people with very fine hair find conditioners too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
and they make the hair floppy. So I made a very light one, and I made one which is like for combination hair, based on the same idea as balance. So
Mm-hmm.
it, you make the hair easy to comb through, but you don't make the hair greasy at the roots. And
Right.
you could use that on your hair. It would be just amazing. So there you go. I'll get you some of that.
So for
Right.
some
So
people who have fine hair, you have a product that actually gives them volume.
balance does. Balance actually gives your hair. Balance shampoo actually gives your hair body. When I use balance shampoo, I have more curls and
Yeah.
more body than when I use any other shampoo. It's
Right.
amazing. Absolutely
Okay.
amazing. You could literally do a half head test. Balance on one side, your favorite shampoo on the other, and you'll have more body on balance, I promise you, because of this very high quality. There's no build up, you see.
Yeah.
So the hair's fully got full body.
I think a lot of people would be interested to know. Let's say you're not blessed with big, long, thick hair. Do you think even for people who are not genetically blessed, they can make the most of their hair?
Well, with balance, yes, absolutely. I mean, who'd
Does
believe
it
a
grow
shampoo that
hair?
really? Yes, that's another podcast.
Okay. So there's another podcast for how to grow your hair?
Hair as longer than you've ever had in your whole life.
Oh.
Let me tell you a quick story about that. Just probably you'll probably use this on another podcast. But
Okay.
there's a girl called Ellie, and she came to work for me when she was 14, and her sister started working for me when she was 16, and she had her sister had the thickest, beautiful, long blonde hair down to her bottom, and the sister comes at 14 years old, fine blonde hair that broke off on its own just about here.
Right.
So their faces were identical, but God blessed one with the thickest, most beautiful hair, and the other one with, frankly, wimpy hair that was rubbish. Anyway, people used to say when they wanted to call one of these two girls over, "Oh, could you tell the girl with the amazing hair to come over and get me a coffee?"
Oh.
No one ever said, "Can you tell the girl with the terrible hair?" But that's how they knew the difference. They both had the same faces, but one had beautiful hair, one didn't. Can you imagine what it's like growing up with an older sister who's got the best hair in the world? In 2013, she's now 30 and she still works for me. She has a baby, but she still works for me. In 2013, she came to me and she said, "If you could make my hair like my sister's hair,
Oh.
I would love you forever." So I was working on for a product to grow hair for cancer patients after chemotherapy. So I gave her a bottle of this stuff. To be honest, the first bottle I gave her, because her hair's so fine, was a bit greasy because, a lot of chemotherapy patients' hair is quite dry. So I'd made it a bit too oily for her hair. But I made a new version of it which wasn't oily, and she managed to grow her hair so long that her boyfriend is a hairdresser. He has to cut like that much off all the time. So in other words, her hair was too long.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
I know. And
Rapunzel, right in your office.
I could send you a picture. Yeah, this is in the salon. She's a top hair colorist called Ellie. She's actually the next best hair colorist to me. And I've been training her since she was, 14. But now her hair is so long. Literally,
Oh, I will absolutely want the pictures. That will be so good.
Beautiful hair. And as I say, she's identical to her sister. She's got as long hair as her sister now, and even longer. If she wanted to, she could literally grow it to her waist. And it never went past here in her whole life. I mean, she was 14 when she met me, but she'd never grown it in her whole life past there.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? You're giving so much hope to so many people. So what happens if you already have dry hair?
A blooming good question, Sophia.
Right.
So remember I talked about the hydrolipid barrier. So what happens if you've already damaged the hydrolipid barrier? I've explained that the causes of damage are shampoo, and heat, and the third one is color.
Right.
Now, so color, whether it's bleach or permanent color or semi-permanent color, the reason why that damages the hydrolipid barrier and irritates the scalp very often is because it's made of a mixture of peroxide. They call it developer, don't they? It's the second product. And alkaline. Alkaline is normally made from either ammonia or non-ammonia. Now, non-ammonia is a chemical called ethanolamine, sometimes called monoethanolamine, or MEA for short, and ammonia is a gas, and they both have the same pH. When you mix them into a hair dye, they're used to swell the hair, open the cuticles, and in combination with peroxide, activate the color, which either lightens the hair or adds color to the hair, or both. And that's basically what a semi-permanent, long-lasting semi-permanent, like a demi-permanent or a permanent color, is designed to do. The difference between a demi-permanent and a permanent is a demi-permanent has a pH of 9 on the alkaline scale, and the water has a pH of 7, and the hair has a pH of 4.5 to 5. Skin has a pH of 5. They're acidic. Neutral is water. Hard water, which comes out of your tap, is 7.7.
Right.
Blood has a pH of 8.5, and demi-permanent hair color has a pH of 9, and permanent hair color has a pH of anywhere between 10.2 and 11. So when you're talking about a permanent color, it's mixed with peroxide, as is a demi-permanent. A permanent peroxide would normally be 6% or 10 or 20 volumes, and and then a demi-permanent is normally 3% or 10 volumes. So obviously
people think of peroxide as bleach.
It is, because it's basically available oxygen more than water. So H2O is the chemical formula of water, and H2O2 is the chemical formula of peroxide. That extra oxygen bleaches hair. When you mix something which is high alkaline and high peroxide, you will get more bleach bleached more quickly. If you use low volume peroxide and high alkaline, you will still get some bleaching, because the high alkaline, increases. It won't be as much as the 6%, but you will still get bleaching. If you want to not bleach your hair, you'd have to use low pH and low peroxide. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That there is no product on the market yet, except for mine, which is low pH, low peroxide, and still covers grey hair. There is not one. When I say low pH, I mean low enough not to bleach the hair.
Because I tested your product, so I used your dark color to cover my grays, and it did so effectively, and I've actually used it a second time on especially the front bit.
If hair is already damaged, how do you put back the moisture that's been removed? So once the hydrolipid barrier has been broken, the hydrolipid barrier is obviously more delicate on curly hair than straight hair.
Yeah.
But so dry hair, curly hair gets drier easier from shampoo than straight hair does, because there's no way the oil can get down to the ends. Heat, curly hair people and straight hair people, but curly hair people more, use very high heat with straightening irons. So you'll often see a person like you used to use straightening irons, and so that was shampoo damaging the hydrolipid barrier, hair dye damaging the hydrolipid barrier, straightening irons damaging the hydrolipid barrier, and if you were lucky enough to go on holiday, the sun damaging the hydrolipid barrier. So that's why your hair, that was one of the reasons why your hair was so bad when I met you. It's not now, obviously. So, but people say to me, how do you put it back? Now, you've heard people talk about oil treatments.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you that Asian people oil their hair anyway, all the time, either after they've shampooed their hair or instead of shampooing their hair. So oil has been well known to be, people try to match up the oils that come out of your scalp, and they've chosen argan oil, coconut oil, castor seed oil, olive oil, depends where you come from, doesn't it? Almond. In Japan, they use Japanese camellia oil. Every culture, amla, not amla. What's that?
Amla, Asian.
Neem oil in India. In every culture, they have. In Africa, they would use shea butter. In the Caribbean, they'd use they in the Caribbean, it depends actually, but some parts of the Caribbean they'd use coconut oil. But you definitely find more African people would use shea oil, shea butter. So every single country, culture has its own oil idea. Not one person in the whole world, except me, that I know of, has ever thought to themselves, why don't we just copy the natural sebum that's missing in nature and actually make a combination of whatever it is that's going to match our natural oils exactly, so we can put our natural oils there.
We're not chemists, that's why.
Well, there must be chemists in the world, apart from me. So one day I thought to myself, what actually is the chemical formulation of natural sebum? Now, it does only differ by whether you're adolescent or not. If you're adolescent, you'll have a high amount of androgen hormone in your sebum, which is the reason why you get acne when you're in puberty, and hopefully not too later on in your life. But some people have a bit more estrogen, and some people have a bit more androgen. Obviously, we're not exactly the same, but 98% we are the same. Actually, similar to monkeys. You know, they're 98% same DNA as we've got. So I thought, why don't I get a chemical analysis of sebum? And I am very lucky. I have a software here, which has got a list of every single fruit and seed oil. I can't use nuts because of allergies, but fruits and seeds in the world that's ever been discovered. I have the chemical composition on a piece of software. So what I did is I tapped in the chemicals that make up, because everything's a chemical, the chemicals that make up human sebum, and I asked the computer to tell me to match that up in the natural world of fruits and seeds, and it came back with the longest chemical formulation you've ever seen. But it is 98% identical. So then I went and found all those fruits and seeds, and I put them in exactly the same percentage as it's told me, and I sent it off to a laboratory, which is called Donington, and they analyzed it and came back and said, this is human sebum. And I said, well, actually it's not, it's fruits and nuts and seeds. And they went, well, but I'll be blowed. No one's ever done that before. And then I made it into a cream, and I actually gave it to a cancer patient called Fiona. I won't give you a surname because she's actually terminally ill, and she's on a particular drug which cuts that out completely, your own natural sebum. So she gets infections on her skin because she has no hydrolipid barrier, and her hair is as dry as you've ever seen anyway. She has literally no natural oil whatsoever. Her skin is infected, pustules. It was absolutely dreadful. Anyway, she put it on her face first of all, then her neck, then her body. She even has like lesions everywhere, you know, where she's got no barrier at all, and she's aged terribly. Anyway, this is it, and it actually came out on its own, interestingly enough. Again, hasn't been launched yet. I've only given it to friends and family. My wife has gone crazy for it. And actually, I'll tell you something. You know, Jesus was not popular in the Galilee. Nobody believed in Jesus in the Galilee, where he came from. My wife used to use Chanel skincare, not Daniel Field.
Really?
Yeah.
And so now she's tested this and she's a convert.
Exactly. First time ever. So this is its own natural color. I'll just show you. It's not colored at all. Isn't that pretty? You've had this. I gave this to you, didn't I?
Yes, it's actually in my hair today.
Yeah.
You know what I find? I like to leave it in. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, perfect. Perfect for curly hair. Perfect. So this is actually the best. This is exactly like you've got naturally silky hair. Right. It's exactly the same as if your oil could get to there. 98% exactly the same.
I'm finding it sheds less when I use that.
Because this is stopping inflammation in your scalp. Inflammation causes hair loss.
Because I'll be honest, I tested it in the salon.
Let me ask you this question: when your skin is dry, it's inflamed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your scalp's perfect now, so the inflammation's gone away.
we couldn't work it out. When I tested it in the salon, my hairdresser and I, and to touch, it didn't feel like the other moisturizers, which literally just made my hair silky to touch. This didn't do that. So we thought my hair would shed, and it didn't. And then I've been using it since, and I honestly cannot believe how little my hair has shed since I started using it.
But you know what I noticed about your hair?
Mm-hmm.
You'd lost your curl completely.
Completely.
Your
Yeah, I had no. It was just
your hair was straight. Your hair was straighter than that.
yes.
And look at it now. It's back
Yeah,
to the
I honestly,
original beautiful curl.
I don't know
And
what happened.
the thickness is amazing because your hair was falling out like nobody's. It was tragic, wasn't it?
But I had bald patches, and
Yeah.
and you told me go get some blood work done, and I did all that, and they found me to be severely anemic. So I have a lot to thank you for, including my energy boost. I feel so energetic.
So this product. So on hair, you just wet your hair. A bit like we were talking about before with the oil you put on before you wash your hair. You wet your hair, you put this stuff on. This is a lot better than the oil I used to use. And then you shampoo your hair. I actually leave this in on my own hair. I left it in. I don't actually use it anymore because my hair's perfect now. But before it was dry and frizzy after COVID, actually. And one treatment cured it. But I have people who use this every week. We have a girl called Charlotte who works here, and her hair, I'd never done her hair. She was new, and her hair was destroyed from shampoo, from hair color, from bleaching, from straightening irons every single day, right to the root of her hair. It was destroyed. I've never seen anything like it. It was gaps when I combed it, where it broken off. Anyway, she started using this in the salon. I did her hair first time. I've only done her hair once. And then she's been using this, and she sometimes leaves it and then puts her hair in a plait and comes to work. Oh my God, her hair's nearly perfect. And it hasn't even had to grow out. This is the same rubbish hair, but she's probably got about that much new hair. And the rest of her hair, which is down there, it's actually there now, is perfect. So this is the answer for damaged hair. Because this is the hydrolipid barrier in a bottle.
Rehydrate.
And it's called Rehydrate.
Mine didn't have the sample you sent me did not have that fancy
no
sticker on it.
No, we actually made that for you today.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
So for this podcast. So so now you've got shampoo that doesn't strip the hair, the heat protection spray which you put on wet hair and you dry in, which takes one for the team when you use the straightening irons. You've got the rehydrating treatment to put back the natural oils, which you can use either as a treatment or as a pre-shampoo, quick wash, or you can do like you do, which is just rub a little bit in your hair and leave it in like a natural oil, and it doesn't go greasy on curly hair. So now you know the secret of how to not damage hair.
Okay, so Daniel, another big thing, some of us ladies are aging, so color has become a necessity. I don't color my hair just for change anymore. I color my hair to look younger. So how can we safely color our hair?
A very good question. The first thing I want to say is that shampoo, heat, and color are the three things that cause the worst damage to the hair. And color is the worst, even worse than shampoo, probably equally bad to heat. Because the typical grey hair color will be high pH and high peroxide. And those two things together are the perfect thing to remove the natural hydrolipid barrier, the sebum that protects your hair, and irritate the scalp. Because the scalp has a pH of 5 and the hair has a pH of 4.5 in the acid, and the color has a pH right up there, anywhere between the lowest 9 and as high as 11, even higher. Bleach is 11.5. So we are talking about the most highest alkaline, which swells the hair, damages the cuticles, and destroys the hydrolipid barrier, and in fact, in some cases, causes the hair to break. It also causes inflammation on the scalp, which causes you to go thin. So there are a lot of people coloring their hair which are going bald because of the hair color, because of the high pH. And so basically to make a hair color that can effectively cover grey hair without damaging the hair has been my number one interest for 45 years. Now, I'm 64 this year, and I first worked on hair color in my mum's kitchen, and she then my dad chucked me out actually into the greenhouse, where he used to grow plants, at the age of 18. And the first thing I tried to do was to find a way of putting something into color to stop it damaging the hydrolipid barrier. So I made up a little sachet of natural essential fatty acids. These are, I actually remember what it was made from. It was made from sunflower, soya bean, wheat germ, and avocado. That was my best guess. And it was in a little sachet, and the idea was you snip the sachet. It was called intint protein, but it wasn't protein, it was intint oil. And put it in and mix it in with the hair dye, and I sold it to hairdressing salons in North London where I lived. And my next experiment, they loved it, by the way. They paid me £1, which was a lot for each one in those days. And then the next thing I thought was, I got to get rid of the ammonia, because the ammonia is damaging and it's really smelly. Actually, I managed to take this to find an alternative for ammonia, which was called ethanolamine. And when you go and buy a hair color that says ammonia free, that was my invention. And that was my invention when I was 18 years old. I managed to sell it to Procter and Gamble, and they launched it, and they called it Future Tone. And it was 12 shades. You could get them in the chemist, and it was literally a very mild color to tone your hair, but it wasn't for covering grey. Okay. In 1984, I made it again in a higher pH with a higher peroxide, and it was called Color Herb, which is still on the market now. Have you ever heard of Color Herb?
Is it like the ones where it's a shampoo and then you just keep rubbing it in?
No. It's in a green bottle, and it sells in health food stores all over the world. The people I made it for, Italian, he's since died, the head there, Senor Albergo, and the rest of, and his daughter took over, and she's now a multi-millionaire living in Monte Carlo with a helicopter on her roof. But I made that for them. I used to go every other week to Rome, and created this whole range of 30 shades called Color Herb with Senor Albergo.
I think that's the one my hairdresser uses. She works in another salon, that's an Italian salon, and she said they have an organic range, but she said the problem with that is you have to keep it on for a full hour, otherwise it doesn't cover the grays.
Well, I haven't used it since 1984, so I'm not really sure. Well, I think I used it actually till in 1991, because I think I finished the research in 86, and they gave me 5 years exclusivity with it. So I actually can't. And I did. They were using it with. I wouldn't give them my alternative to peroxide, so they just used a very, very, very low volume peroxide, which is why they have to leave it on so long. But my one, I was able to use like in a professional way, with my alternative to peroxide, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so so basically, I'm the guy who invented non-ammonia hair color, and you can see how long I've been doing this. So only today at 11 o'clock today did I manage to achieve what I've tried to do for 45 years.
Wow. That's incredible. Okay.
So obviously I'm fairly excited about that. And everyone in the factory was running around hoopy. I think we should have bought some champagne. What I managed to do, I'll show it to you now. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make a color that didn't bleach the hair, that didn't lighten your natural color, but colored gray hair, 100% gray hair even, and would moisturize your hair the same as that hydrolipid cream that we've been going on about today.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that the hair would come out go from dry, frizzy hair to glossy, shiny hair that's like Chinese quality, like Japanese gloss. Yeah. So I've got some Asian hair, and one side, I'm going to show you this, one side is bleached, and it's actually not even human, it's yak hair, which is not that silky, but it's bleach, but it does work as if you were colouring bleached hair. So this is a
So
swatch.
from grey.
No, this one side is bleached, rubbish yak hair,
Okay.
dry as a bone. I'll show you. I've got some here.
Okay.
This is one I made earlier. So this colour is called oil colour. So this is it's all falling out all over there.
Artificial
so
hair.
This is real human hair.
Okay.
Sorry, let's show you there.
Oh,
50% white and 50% dark brown, and this woman I think is from Asia.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other is a piece of yak hair.
Okay. Is that synthetic hair or human too now?
No, it's from a yak, from an animal.
Oh,
it's from the.
Sorry, the reason why I say that is I buy a brand of synthetic hair called Yak.
Oh right, so maybe one that you're buying isn't synthetic. It's maybe yak, because you can buy yak hair for highlights, for hair extensions. Yeah. So and they do use this. They use this for hair extensions, the least expensive ones.
Right.
And
that's what I
it basically this is from a yak has actually got brown hair, and this is the belly. The belly hair grows very, very quickly. It's very expensive, but they bleach it, and then it's not bad shine. Can you see? It's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah. It's
I always assumed my hair was synthetic. The hair that I buy.
No, I don't think it's just not human. It's an animal.
Right.
But there is nylon. There is one called monofiber, which is synthetic.
You're setting me up for so many jokes with my brother, who just hates me wearing wigs.
Yeah. Well, it might be synthetic, but so when we make a swatch, when we test the hair color, we don't test it on a person, because obviously it would be unfair. The only person we test it on is me, which is the reason why my hair's nearly black, because I keep coloring it. But one side would be this 50% white hair. Can you see the white in it?
Yes. Yeah. The grey.
And the other side is bleached.
Right.
Bleached hair. There is a slight difference. White hair is much whiter than this.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I've been trying to invent a color which wouldn't lighten the hair at all, and because when you lighten hair, you always throw out warmth, and when color fades, it looks ginger and horrible, and would cover grey, and wouldn't grab on bleached hair, because that's the problem. Bleached hair is very porous, and hair dye is very damaging because of the hydrolipid barrier. It breaks up, and there's the result. Never been seen before. Can you see they're identical?
Yeah.
You see both sides are identical.
So what did you do to them?
This side's the yak hair.
Yeah.
And it's gone exactly to the right, to exactly the same color as that side. So the white hairs have all gone, and the hair is, I don't know if you can see the shine on it.
Very shiny.
It's like, it looks wet, doesn't it? It's
so
shiny. Yeah. Even my yak hair, it feels just like, oh.
Wait, but did you wash? Is that shampooed or?
That's been shampooed, yeah. No conditioner. But what it is it's the same as the hydrolipid treatment, but it's dyed the hair without bleaching it at all. So I've never got grey coverage without bleaching a little bit.
Right.
And what it is it's a new ingredient, which is not ethanolamine or ammonia, and it's another substance called, I'm naming it. It's actually here next to me. It's called amino-methylpropanol, and it is completely organic. So that means that the hydrolipids and the low pH and the low peroxide, which is only about 1.5%, will actually hydrate the scalp, make the scalp feel fantastic. You won't need to use even hair conditioner. You can just wash your hair. It will comb through beautifully, covers grey, and doesn't grab on bleached hair. best
That's
invention I've ever made.
absolutely insane.
So
You know what?
anybody in the world who's got dry hair who uses this will be giving themselves the most intense hydrating treatment. Can you imagine if you use this after that? You could just have the worst dry hair will turn to the silkiest hair over and over again every time you color it. It's so exciting.
But just when we've embraced gray hair, there's all these amazing women who are, we've created movements to embrace our gray hair. Now you're going to find
Right.
something that's organic.
You're right. I know. It's my most annoying thing that we've lost about 10% of all the hair dyeing in the world has gone gray. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, 45 years trying to do this. Nobody wanted to be grey. Now everybody wants to be grey. Well, let 10% do anyway. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a trend.
Ironic,
it's good to have options.
Well, I think it's wonderful because I find people who embrace their grey, I find it very attractive because it makes me think they're not trying too hard. So I'm not always saying it suits them and maybe they do look a bit older, but then I'm at the age where I kind of like a woman. I don't care if they look young as long as they're at peace with themselves. You know what I mean? So I'm good with it. But from a hair dye point of view, it's rubbish.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're very happy.
So for those people who haven't got dry hair, I invented something which is a massive invention as well. And this is new as well. And it's here. So this is watercolor. Now, all you do is get warm water and put it in here up to this little mark where it says fill.
Okay.
Yeah. And then warm water. Then there's no peroxide or anything. You put this powder in and you put this powder in. They're just two little things of powder.
Okay.
Okay. So this is baking powder like you use for cooking.
Okay.
And it's made of, so I don't know if you know what baking powder is made from. Baking powder is made from bicarbonate of soda.
Yes, I do.
Soda.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And tartaric acid, which is cream of tartar. And this one is actually citric acid and tartaric acid with baking powder. And this is the dye itself with 2 powdered shampoos, which are very similar to my organic shampoo, but in a powdered form, and xanthan gum, which is the gum you're using. So this is for people like me who don't have dry hair anymore, who want to get rid of their grey and who don't want to use any chemicals. And what it does is the combination of those things lifts the cuticles up only to a pH of 8.5. So it's even lower than my new oil color, which is 9. And same pH as blood. And what you've done is you've managed to get the color to cover your grey hair. Do you want to see some? So if you look, it hasn't lightened the brown bit at all. The grey bit, the bit that was the grey side, and it hasn't grabbed on the bleached at all either. So very, very similar to the one that I showed you before.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they are different dyes, but they're still.
What color is that? Brown.
Number 5, yeah, natural brown. Yeah, absolutely. So I've managed to almost without any oil. This has got no oil. Now this doesn't make your hair moisturized, but it doesn't have any damage whatsoever. So again, doesn't lighten the hair, doesn't bleach the hair. It's got no peroxide, doesn't damage it because it's got a low pH, does cover grey, and is true and doesn't grab on bleached hair, and is true to the color. I mean, they're pretty much identical.
Question is, so for not just grey people who are going grey, but what kind of safe color? Is this safe color okay to use for people who just want to change? So if they have black and they want to go brown or they want to go auburn.
No, this isn't for them. That's another thing. I do make that.
Okay.
But what we're having a conversation with you today is about is safe. I'll go through the safe quickly with you. It's color and it's caring, but it's for covering grey, but it's not for lightening the hair. You could enrich hair, you could darken hair, but you can't lighten it because there's no peroxide. Okay. There's no oxygen. Okay. Well, there's only enough oxygen in it to make it work. 1.5%.
I have to say,
The watercolor is 1%, and the oil color is 1.5%. So it's next to nothing.
What do you mean? What's 1%?
Oxygen. So it's enough oxygen to activate the color, but not enough oxygen to bleach your hair.
Right. Why would oxygen bleach hair?
Because oxygen is bleach. Extra oxygen is bleach. Remember we talked about this, H2O and H2O2?
Oh yes.
H2O is water.
Yeah,
and H2O2 is
I quite
bleach.
comprehended that actually.
So any extra oxygen in water is a bleach. It's funny. The sun is a bleach, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't think of it that way. I mean, you do because when you're out in the sun, you come out. If you've spent too long in the sun, and your hair is a completely different color.
Exactly, and that's because sunlight activates the oils in your hair, and it triggers something called lipid peroxide. It creates it's a catalyst to create bleach.
I feel like this is a proper science class.
Good.
Okay.
So yeah, so you get people who say, "Oh, I put oil on my hair and I go out in the sun." Stupid you, because because the oil's gonna oxidize, and it's gonna produce lipid peroxides, and that's gonna bleach your hair. That's the same as oil. Have you ever had oil in your house? You've left it too long in the cupboard. You go and have a smell of it, and it smells rancid, oxidized. You've heard people say, "Oh, it's oxidized." That's it.
So what about sun protection then? How do you keep your hair sun?
You definitely don't put oil on your. You definitely don't put oil on.
Do you make any products for that?
Of course I do. I mean, my cancer patients aren't allowed to go in the sun. Their sun is photosensitive, so I make a fantastic sun product. It's not a cream. It's a gel because I don't believe in oil and sunlight. Oil and sunlight go rancid, creates peroxides. That's the most inflammatory thing. That's why when you put oil on your skin and you go out in the sun, you always get the worst sunburn,
right? And
damage and inflammation.
And you
I make a product. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that would be from our Daniel Phil Clinic conversation.
Okay. So the other thing we want to talk about is allergies. Can we talk about allergies?
Yes, allergies. Absolutely. Now, so I invented a molecule 14 years ago for people who are allergic to PPD. And PPD is the most common allergen. People often talk about paraphenylenediamine, PPD, and hair dye being very dangerous and very bad. I did used to make a hair dye with PPD, and my advice to people then was just do a skin test, make sure you're not allergic to it before you color someone's hair. And that was the best I could come up with. And then about 14 years ago, a very big company, beginning with Procter & Gamble, P&G, came back to me and said, "Hey, you're the guy that made non-ammonia hair color. How about making PPD that doesn't cause allergies?" So I went, "Oh, okay." So what I did was I synthesized PPD and I slightly changed the shape of the molecule, and I got a Chinese company to make it for me, but I did it, theoretically on paper. And they have a laboratory there in China which specializes in synthetic things because it's a synthetic type of dye. And what it is, if you could imagine this, when you have an allergy, and when you become sensitized, an original first allergy to PPD, it happens when your mast cells, the PPD goes into your body, and your mast cells, which are in your blood, start to produce masses of histamine, and you get a reaction. So once that happens, the body has a memory, and the mast cells recognize even the tiniest amount of PPD, and it doesn't matter how much they say on the back of a bottle, "Oh, it only has a small amount," you will still react. So all those colors you see in health food stores, like Nature Tints of Nature, even Color Herb that I made all those years ago, they all contain PPD, and people who are allergic can't use them. So really, they shouldn't really be sold as being natural at all because they're made with synthetic dye, and they're not got a little bit. They've got exactly the same amount of PPD as Wella or L'Oreal or any other color. So I made this theory.
So you're saying Nature Tint and all these stuff that I buy in the organic shops was never really any different to the Garnier that costs £4?
Well, they got the same PPD. Nature Tints of Nature are Demi-Permanent in as much as they have a slightly lower pH. And as you just mentioned, Color Herb has got a low level peroxide, so it takes an hour to take and it's not very good at covering grey. But you're absolutely right. The tint, the peroxide, sorry, the PPD is the same PPD as L'Oreal and Wella and all the other people. Absolutely. So it's a bit of a greenwashing exercise, isn't it?
Yes.
So, so what? So a long time ago, Clairol Natural Instincts came out with a color called Natural Instincts, and they used something called PTD, paratoluene diamine sulfate. It's a cousin of PPD, and what was good about it was it works like PPD, but if you're already allergic to PPD, 48% of people would still react, and 52% wouldn't. So if you're already allergic to PPD and you're one of the lucky 52%, then you could use PTD instead of PPD. So I would have thought that those health food stores would have used those health food store colors, but they didn't. Clairol did, and L'Oreal do. Have you heard of Castings?
Yes.
They're all Demi-Permanent hair colors. Now they didn't use PTD in permanent colors very often, but there are companies that do, and PTD is very good if you're not allergic. And it's also much less likely to be an original allergic sensitizer. So if you can use it, you should, PTD. Okay. However, in 13 years ago, I took this molecule and I changed the shape of it. So then what happened was, when that goes on someone who's already got that memory of the allergy, it's a bit like a key going in the door. You know, if they don't actually cut the key exactly right, when they make a duplicate, it gets stuck and you have to go back to the man and say, could you make that key a bit better so it's not turning the lock? The molecule was close enough to dye your hair like PPD, but not quite as close as a perfect fit. That's the key.
Okay.
So the good bit was still there, but what it meant was 66% of people, so this is an improvement from 55, 66% of people who were already allergic to PPD would not react to this new type of dye, and I sold it for loads of money to Procter & Gamble.
Okay, wow.
The bad thing was,
yes,
I was banned from, I wasn't allowed to use it for myself.
Oh, really?
I didn't care because I wasn't even making hair dye there, not for myself. I was only, in those days, I think I was using PPD, but it was a lot of money, paid for a house, but I had to sign a thing that said, if I use it, I will have to give all the money back, plus interest, plus damages. And every year I get a lawyer send me a letter making me sign again that I haven't used it.
So did you have to reinvent everything for your salon?
No, I'm stuck with not being able to use it. It's not a cheap thing to synthesize a molecule and send it. When they make a new molecule in the laboratory in China, you're talking about £500,000. It's not something I could make for my salon. I was stuck not being able to use it, and I couldn't make it myself. So it's not something you can just do in the lab. It's a proper, clever process. But the good news is the public can use it now, because 14 years later, Procter & Gamble sold to Coty, and Coty sold two companies, Wella and Clairol, and both of them use it. So people can use it now. So if you are allergic to PPD, you can buy one of the dyes. Is nice and easy, and it's one particular one where it's got that molecule in. So it's definitely worth doing a skin test with that. And Wella make one called Wella ME+, and that's the same molecule.
Right.
So that's a professional product. So some salons do have Wella ME+, and people who are allergic to PPD should have a skin test, because 66% will not be allergic to it. And Clairol Nice and Easy Permanent Color, and I can't remember the exact name of it, but you have to look on the back of well, I could just tell you. Hold on a second. Well, I couldn't really tell you because
the thing is, people are saying there are people who are saying that with COVID, salons now have new safety regulations because it has affected what we're allergic to. We
massively.
Need to know.
So I know that this isn't for this particular podcast, but Daniel Field Clinic I've set up an free allergy service, And part of my consultation is to give people the free advice of how, if they've got PPD allergy, what to do. Some shades, like black, you're better off using this stuff from Clairol. Other shades, I make that dye anyway. I make other dyes which are even less allergic, less likely in people who are already allergic to PPD. And in fact, in the lab right now, they're making a light brown, non-PTD, non-PPD hair color for a lady called Heather, who I'm going to be coloring on Monday. And it's in that new oil color base. So it's quite exciting. So
and do people have to do it at your salon, or can they just buy? Can they just recommend? So can people just?
Yeah. People get a free consultation from me, and I will send them the link to buy the Clairol stuff, or it'll be my own. But it's only really the black that I recommend for other people, which is a lot of people. My other colors I don't need that new ingredient because I've got other molecules which are less allergic even than that. So people, I can help people. So yeah, anyone listening to this podcast, this is really, I was going to save this for our Daniel Field Clinic podcast, but they can get free allergy test with a free allergy test. I actually send them a free allergy test, or I'll put them on to go and buy that one.
Is this worldwide, Daniel?
Say again?
Is this worldwide? Because
worldwide, worldwide.
Okay.
So I deal with Africa Saturday and Sunday afternoons.
Okay.
So UK time 3:00, but I deal with worldwide.
Well, what we could
I deal with America then as well.
What we could do is go live on Instagram and Facebook if you wanted. But another question, just a quick one that I got from a hairdresser, is they said, this product looks really good. Does it work the same way as black henna? Because you said it's water-based.
Oh, no, nothing like it. It's completely my invention. Does henna have baking powder and citric acid? No, it's completely different. It colors the hair. Well, let me ask you. Does henna do that on grey hair?
I tried henna during lockdown when I was thinking, okay, there's something definitely going on with why I'm getting, I'm losing hair in some parts of my scalp, the hair was not growing back, and I just had all these issues. And first of all, it didn't cover my grays. Even the dark one left my hair looking orangey. So it didn't.
Well, do you know what? Every single henna-based color contains one of three ingredients: henna, and there are different types of henna because it depends where you live. So Rajasthani henna is much different reds than say Iranian Persian henna. I'm just using that example. Where the henna grows, the redness is different. Some are orangey and some are very deep red. Indigo, which is a blue, and cassia, which is a very mild sort of yellowy gold.
Yeah,
and
I tried the indigo.
That's supposed to be very blue. The idea is you put the henna on first and you put the indigo on second.
Yeah. And
two processes. Sometimes you put them together. If you want very black, you would make your hair blue first and then put the red over the top. But the point is it's really messy. It takes really ages. It needs to be left on for like a day, and but it's not actually that great for the condition of your hair because it goes quite hard and it makes the cuticles very rough. So people put in amla, which is a kind of citric acid into it. Sometimes they put citric acid in to bring the cuticles flatter because unfortunately these products lift the cuticles. Some people put oils in. It's a very highly skilled thing. I know a lot about it. I've used it for many, many years. I do use henna sometimes, but for specific things. And I obviously know how to make it not damage the hair. But it's watercolor comes in 40 shades, even ash colors, even charcoal grey, every single color, purple, orange, red. I can make it in blue. I can make it in green if they want.
But again, just for people to understand, this is when your hair's grown. Sorry, this is for when your hair's gone grey, right?
Or if you want to enrich your color, you could just put on a warm color like a gold or a copper or or a red or a chestnut or a
What if
purple,
you
and
wanted
you'll
it
bring out
purple
natural
and
light.
you have dark black hair?
Well, you could get a purple tone onto it, so you just put straight purple onto it, and you have a bit of a purple color in the light. If your hair's blue-black, it
And
could show blue.
how young do you have to be, or old do you have to be? How old do you have to be to use this?
Well, in what way? Is this with the
Like
permission of your
if
mother? It's.
teenager, like if you're 10, 15, 20.
I used to sell it. I used to sell two ranges of it in Boots. One was called. It was radiant colours. That was for young people. The idea that they had boring hair and they just wanted to make it warmer. And I did it in burgundy, deep red, deep copper, copper gold, and gold. So they use it as a tone for young people.
Mm-hmm.
And then for older people who want to cover grey, it was 36 shades.
Wow.
And it was everything you could want, from black right up to the palest blonde on 100% white hair. It doesn't lighten the hair, so you'd have to have white hair to make it platinum blonde. You add a small amount of dye into it, and then it will make your hair go from white to platinum blonde. Obviously, they're very close to each other, aren't they? But the difference is quite nice when you see a woman who looks quite old, and then suddenly she looks like she's bleached her hair. But in fact, all you've done is add a very small amount of pale blonde. So we do it in every shade, and it's all pre-mixed for people, and it looks like that. And you just put it in warm water. This, no peroxide, no chemicals. Now, doesn't dry your hair up at all, but it's not a moisturizer, so it makes your hair very shiny and silky. But it's nothing like you've got the driest hair in the world, and then you use that, and it comes out like glass. It comes out glass, but it also feels almost like, I've never felt hair like it.
But when you're mixing with water, are you taking into account different? That's really amazing.
Amazing, isn't it? Imagine your hair like that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
I must say, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad before, to be fair. I mean, that is quite silky, hair. Yeah. Considering it's grey. I've seen worse.
I have another question from the same hairdresser. She says, I've checked the link that you posted, and I'm interested to know what he uses as his developer, because he stated 6% developer, and as stylists, we know that a developer is equivalent to peroxide. That is the active ingredient that enhances performance of the color.
I am glad you asked that question. Okay, so with the watercolor, obviously there's no developer, but there is available oxygen. But I told you the formula, and remember I said to you it's only got 1% available oxygen. Yeah. So that oxygen comes from that bicarbonate of soda. It's actually called sodium percarbonate. So, and it's just very, very, very mild. But the other product, the one I said to you, contains 3% available oxygen, which is when mixed with the hair color becomes 1.5%, is made from a substance called Fruity Booster.
Yes.
Do you remember me mentioning to you about hydrolipids are made from fruit and yeah?
Yes.
So that is a peroxide made from exactly the same formulation as the hydrolipid oils that I mentioned before, as is the color itself. So yes, when you use 6% Fruity Booster, you are using available oxygen, but it's a lipid peroxide. Lipids meaning hydrolipid oils, exactly the same formulation as your natural sebum, turned into a peroxide. So it's really good for your hair, but it's got available oxygen.
Got it. And then so she also says, are there any tutorials on how the coloring procedure is done using these products? At what point is water used? Just curious. I think you've answered that, right? So you first mix the two powders.
I do free advice to the public and hairdressers. And if a hairdresser, I've got lots of freelance hairdressers as well, they normally do that on Monday mornings.
Okay.
So all they do is make a booking with me, like on my website.
Yeah.
But we also have a special website for hairdressers as well.
Okay.
So they can just go onto that website. I'll give you this off the podcast. I'll give you the address, and then you
Okay.
can get your hairdressers to contact me. I normally send them free samples,
Hmm.
and then I give them free training,
Hmm.
and then they can just go on the website, and the minimum order is one.
But so for people
One,
across the world, so let's say someone
and this
contacts
is
me
for
from
across the world.
Africa or from how you would ship them out.
We send out to professional hairdressers, even one single mum and pop in a garage in Ghana.
Okay.
We send it all over the world. I tell you, the only place we have trouble sending to is Europe
Oh. Since Brexit?
because of since Brexit.
Mm.
We've got a whole load of products that have been sent back by customs all over the place from everywhere. Luxembourg, Germany, Spain, Italy. It's awful. So there are hairdressers out there who are not can't get any stock from me. They can't get any stock from anybody who manufactures in the UK. So my brother and I are setting up in Poland a redistribution warehouse.
Right.
So we send the products over in bulk and refill it and turn them into European products, and then sell them all over the Schengen area. But it's an absolute pain in the neck. I built up an amazing business. Organic hair. The best place to go be an organic hairdresser, apart from the UK, America.
Oh.
Easy peasy to get it to America and Africa. The other day, I actually sent something to South Africa, and it arrived in 3 days. I was amazed, and it got all the way through customs and no problem at all. Easier to send to
You
South
ship to
Africa.
Kenya?
Yeah. Did you know Zach just come back from there?
No, I did not know, and I don't want to know. Actually, I'm so envious. Well,
How long do you think he was there? 6 weeks. Yeah, went to Lamu.
Daniel, what about people who have allergies? You know, everyone's worried about allergies, especially with COVID. What would you recommend for people like that?
It's a really good question. So obviously, you can be allergic to strawberries. You can be allergic to peanuts. My son's very allergic to peanuts, and I can eat them without any problem, and he could die. So people can be allergic to hair dye. It's very common to be allergic to hair dye. It's in the top 10 most allergic substances. Now, there will be people after COVID who have developed an allergy, and they weren't allergic to color before. So I've seen a massive rise in allergy, and I now run a free allergy clinic worldwide for people to help them find a color they're not allergic to. And I even actually make hair color, bespoke hair color, in my laboratory, just like one product for them after we've done the skin test to make sure they're not allergic to it. But we do have another thing about allergy, which is really you should do a skin sensitivity test before you color your hair every single time. I mean, if you were pregnant, for example, you didn't know it, and then you developed an allergic reaction whilst pregnant, and it was very serious, and it was, let's say, anaphylactic, you could lose your baby. So it's not a joke. It's a serious thing. So I know everybody wings it, but I don't believe in that. So what I've done is I've invented a product which people can do an allergy test at home every time they color their hair. And basically, I've made a powdered version of my dye, of both my dyes. It's the same ingredients, and all you do is it's like a little dropper, and you put a bit of powder on. You put a bit of water first. You get two droppers. So one of them you just take some warm water and you just wet your arm, tiny bit. Then you take the other one which has got this powder in and you put it on there. You don't have to do anything else. You wait an hour. You wipe it off. You check in 2 days. And if you don't react, you're not allergic, you're ready to go. You can color your hair with any of my hair colors and you don't have to worry. If you do get an allergic reaction, you phone me and I create a new hair dye that you're not allergic to. I'll send you other skin tests of other substances. So I do this free of charge. I send a free allergy test anywhere in the world by post before anybody colors their hair. And then, just to be on the safe side, they can buy a 1-year kit. It's about £5 for a whole year, and it's enough to do 12 allergies once a month, 12 allergy tests. And that way I don't have to worry about allergies ever again, because if they do react, I make them a hair dye that they're not allergic to, and if they don't react, then they can quite confidently color their hair. without worrying at all. So I think you think that's a bloody good idea, isn't it? So that people can
Absolutely.
actually,
Absolutely, because I have a couple of hairdresser friends who watch it and had questions, and so this will be very useful for them to know that they can get
give
by
their clients, they can
allergy.
give their client, yeah, well, they can literally give their client a 12-month allergy testing kit. It's if the hairdresser is if the hairdresser can actually buy it from me, probably half the price of that. So for
Mhm,
£2.50, they can be absolutely certain that nobody. And what's great is that client doesn't come in to have it done; they do it themselves at home,
mhm.
and they have a little card they fill in. And when they do come into the salon, they just hand the card. It's signed. They've done the allergy test. Hairdresser's covered. Nobody's going to get an allergic reaction, provided they're using my hair color. Of course, they could use somebody else's and get an allergic reaction,
Oh,
but if they're
really?
using my
Okay.
hair color, yeah,
Well, so
it's only
the
it's
allergy test
specifically
is only for
so
Daniel Field
specifically
products.
for Daniel Field watercolor, Daniel Field oil color, absolutely. But
Okay.
because obviously I don't use PPD, so no one's going to be. I'm not going to give an allergy test out for something I don't use.
Right.
Um, but if anybody comes into a salon or a member of the public wants to use my colors, then they can be absolutely rest assured they're never going to get an allergic reaction. Because can you imagine how embarrassing it would be for me if somebody got an allergic reaction to my product, bearing in mind I'm an allergy expert?
Oh, yeah. Well, to be honest, it's just that it's so nice to know that there are brands who take this level of care. I mean, you don't see it, which is kind of why I feel like, okay, if I'm gonna take a chance and put myself out there, um, you know, I prefer doing it with someone like you who seems to have tried as much as humanly possible to,
Yeah.
yeah, to avoid being
Listen,
judged by human beings.
let me tell you something. In bottom line is, I want to go to bed at night knowing that I did everything I could to help people, and people appreciate that level of help. We
Mhm,
get the results,
mhm.
and I end up, feeling great, about myself,
Yeah,
and that's what the whole point of life is.
yeah.
So, all this effort I'm making is nothing to do with making money. I
Mhm.
actually come from quite a
No, you
wealthy
would have.
family.
Yeah, I think to be honest, there are much easier ways to make money that you could have, you know. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. No, I mean, I was born into my father was chairman of a public company, and I was born into a very comfortable family.
Mhm.
So this my motivation has never been money. In fact, I've ignored money. Like a lot of people who are a bit too comfortable. I've never been very careful with it, and I've always been ripped off by people because I haven't been very protective of it.
Mhm.
But now I'm actually happier now than I ever was before because I'm fully engaged in helping people.
Mhm.
And, it's a win-win, isn't it?
Mhm.
Customer wins, the hairdresser wins, and I win. All
Mhm.
good. All right,
Oh,
lovely. So that's been great.
yeah.
I'm now going
So
to
yeah, it was so nice to have you.